Tonia here, your host of The Alchemy of Me, where we navigate the anatomy of humanity through the lens of science and spirituality. Let's unearth the layers and unravel the systems in place that dim who we are and how we live and experience life. On this journey together, we'll weave in an eclectic blend of mind, body, energy, medicine, concepts, tools, and practices that'll nourish the seeds, the fire, that gold of intelligence that is you. This is an opportunity, your opportunity to reclaim, to rediscover, to transform, to alchemize you. The Alchemy of Me show starts now. Hello, everyone. Welcome. I am Tonia, your host of the Alchemy of Me show, where we navigate the anatomy of humanity through the lens of science and spirituality. And I am super excited today to have a dear friend and leader join me on the show. And I'll just share a little bit about Aubrey Johansson before we dive in. So Aubrey is serves as the CEO of A Deeper Way and ADW Leadership, an organization that specializes in high-touch services for leaders and teams ready to dig deeper, foster authenticity, and navigate change with grace and confidence. With a unique blend of psychology and human understanding, the ADW team is dedicated to creating cohesive workplaces that drive high-impact growth, achieve business metrics, and exceed expected success. Aubrey uses a holistic approach as CEO to enhance organizational systems and team effectiveness. She uses a hands-on approach with clients and operations and team well-being, promoting authentic leadership and organizational transformation. Her leadership emphasizes growth, authenticity, and human-centric values, making the company a leader in enhancing team cohesion for organizational success. Welcome.
Thank you.
I might have modified your bio a little bit. I hope you're okay with that.
No, I love it. And I was like, well, this is a mouthful for you to start.
It's fun. I don't know if you want to add if I missed anything, kind of just thinking like big picture before we dive in.
Sure. All that comes to mind for me is really what we've been focusing on lately is really targeting kind of organizational, kind of the talent pipeline and how that kind of manifests as an organization and flows. And that's all that comes up for me to add on. I don't feel like anything needs to add on, but the way that we get there is all of the things that you said, is really getting to know our clients and kind of walk alongside them and get a lens into how they see things so that we can kind of be a motor to all the good things that are propelling forward. So thank you.
I love that. And I would actually say, as someone who has experienced and worked with A Deeper Way over the years, first as somebody in the team setting, and then more as a leader, and then facilitating. It's interesting though, because we talk about this like from an organizational standpoint, and that's kind of the lens in which we're going to explore, I think, today. And though I really want to encourage people that are listening to move outside of that box, because what leadership really is, it transcends the organization, it transcends the workplace. And so when we invite in this alchemy of leadership within the workplace, and we really learn these tools and these ways of being within the workplace, we're able to see it have a ripple effect at home, as parents, as friends, as that person, really just a human, how we exist, because it affects, I think, how we see each other, how we see humanity, and how we see ourselves. And so that's where, like, I'm so excited to be on this journey with you. And so I wanted to bring that up, because even if somebody's not in, a quote unquote leadership role, they're still a leader in
Mm-hmm.
so many. We all are, and we've experienced probably. I know for myself this morning, as I was reflecting on this discussion, what was coming up for me was a lot of kind of icky stuff around all of the leadership experiences I've had being led up until this point, and some really, and I think that people feel that a lot of people have felt that, and so I am kind of just opening that up as a what if. There we didn't have that experience anymore. How about this idea of alchemizing how we lead um, in all parts of life? And so with that kind of invitation,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. So to you, and to, kind of your role in a deeper way, leadership, or ADW leadership, what is the alchemy of leadership, and how does that play in for you?
Yeah. Uh, my brain went in so many places just like listening to you. Now I know just like what's on your mind, and it is, there's so much synergy. Essentially, and I love how you set out the alchemy of me, and it's like science and spirituality, and where those two things
Mm-hmm.
come together.
Mm-hmm.
And that is humanity, right? And it's how we are, it's how we show up, and it's really this energy exchange amongst those around us. And as you said, you can kind of feel it in the room sometimes. One thing that came up for me is, as you were talking, is there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in the workplace.
Yes.
New leaders, get brought onto a team and realize really quickly that their impact, there's a shadow there first of what was. And I think that's a really hard spot that maybe didn't always get a lot of attention, and we just kind of plow through it, and expectations are this, and jump in and either let that go or get it under the rug. So but eventually you trip over it anyways. And so that kind of came up. But when we think about science and spirituality in leadership and in the workplace, and what does that look like, a lot of what we think about is the science piece of it is, the data, and it's the analytics, and it's the measurable skills that we can learn and develop and grow. And there isn't necessarily like an end point of I made it. And then that spirituality piece that comes into play is really our personal values do get brought into the workplace, and into our teams. Ethics is a huge part of how we show up and how we do our work. But then emotional intelligence too is in that kind of spiritual piece of, again, what, as the leader, what am I letting kind of be in this space
Mm-hmm.
and inviting in? And that's a spot that I'd say the workplace struggles with. And but the beautiful thing is that it can be taught. There are skills in those spots too, and the more that we're open and we kind of go on that self journey first. We talk about cohesion, and I think the beautiful thing is that it really starts with ourselves and understanding and building that cohesion within ourselves of our intellectual and our emotional being, and all of those different parts of us that if we don't let come up in the workplace, we're missing an opportunity. And so that is really fun about what we do, and how we kind of watch the impact on individuals just kind of over time, it actually happens really fast. So it's really fun, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. And of course, the same as you're describing, like all of these ideas and memories came up
Yeah.
just from hearing you describe kind of that foundational piece and the opportunity, the opening that is available. And it reminded me actually of an experience that I had after working with a deeper way. And, this was many years ago now, but I was still in the corporate space.
Wow.
And I had a team. We met every week. It was an environmental engineering project, a large remediation project, and several, engineers and scientists. So very much on the analytical realm. And yes, my background is science, and but you know me, like I just I let the spiritual side of me flow through. So a lot of times that can come through as being like not having an outline or not being maybe prepared, because I like to be open to things to just be, right? However, as a leader, that is not always that actually can feel very uncomfortable for others. And so in that setting, I recognized my maybe an outline in advance for the team would be a good opportunity to meet them where they're at and really to provide them that comfort. It was something I was playing with. And I got to be honest, like just that little, like, extra 15 minutes, I already kind of had the outline in my head, but to let them know in advance that there's a plan and to share that with them, it totally shifted how those meetings went and the effectiveness, because I was meeting them where they were at, not where I was at in my kind of style. Because for me, a leader, like you really have to, be aware of the team dynamics. And that's how, in order for me to meet them where they're at, it's an opening. And they actually, I would say from there, it was like exponential shifting within the team. People shared more because they felt like it was a safe place to share, because it was within that lens of, the structure. So I just wanted to share that. Yeah.
I love that because, a lot of time, well, one thing we talk about, if you just wind us up and let us go as leaders, and as some of us are, have had experiences in other realms of our life, even just growing up, where we had the opportunity to kind of build some of these skills of other people watching us and kind of naturally following or coming together with us. So sometimes it feels like we have some innate skills that just naturally happen well. We get to this workplace setting, which is not really organic at all. It's all people of different walks of life, different ways of thinking, different patterns, lots of differences coming into this space, and we're expected to kind of hit the ground running. And even if we're good at it, we typically naturally hit, 25% of our people.
Yes.
That naturally hear what we're saying the way that we're expecting them to. But a lot of times that's the miss, is that we don't understand the other brains in the room and the other experiences in the room. And when we take the time to just, like you said, meet folks where they're at and what some of their needs are, because I imagine in that setting too, I can picture like just busy brains of like, and what's this going to be like? How long is it going to take? And there's a sense of, I don't know what it's going to be. And so I'm thinking maybe it's a lot of what ifs. Maybe it's wondering if I'm going to be on the spot. Maybe it's wondering. And so just that outline, I could also just like picture all these brains like, okay,
Yes.
I can
Yes.
engage. I am here and just kind of present. And I know my part too, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, these first parts of the agenda, I'm here to listen and I'm
Hmm.
here to kind of take it in. And then this part of the agenda, might be my time to share. And so I do there's a lot of power in knowing what your team kind of needs, and sometimes they don't know, and so it's
Hmm.
taking the time to understand um, those nuances in the room.
Absolutely. And that's the power of the pause, right? Where
Yeah.
it's just, um,
Yeah.
sometimes it's and this is again bringing it outside of the workplace because I think sometimes that can
Yeah.
help, and then you can bring
Yeah.
it back in, and it's it's say, and I only have one child, so I can't speak to this, but I have two dogs, so maybe I'll bring in
Oh
the
yeah.
dogs, and they're completely different personalities, and I have to puppy parent them very differently,
Yeah.
because they have their own personalities, and I suspect, I mean, you're a parent of three, is that?
3 and 2
Yes,
dogs.
two
So
dogs.
yeah.
So different personalities, and if you
Yeah.
use that same model for each one, the first child and the second child and the third child all
Yeah.
have unique personalities and unique needs, just as we all do. And so it's recognizing that beauty, that you can't parent, and the challenges that comes with that, you can't
Yeah.
parent each one the same, and that's the same as in the workplace.
Hmm.
If you're really there to inspire and to lead, and like you said, to come beside,
Yeah.
it's not the hierarchy. Those days are done.
No.
Those
Yeah.
days need to be done.
Yeah.
It's time to shift how we, and it is happening, and it has been happening.
Yes.
But people are so ready, and they need it, and it comes with, okay, now what? So I'd be curious. So we've talked a little. We've kind of gone all over the place. I'm not even
Yeah.
going to try to pretend we're going we're going rogue.
I assumed as much. I was
It's perfect. I would love to, kind of come back to what you had said about, it comes to the individual. So it
Mhm.
starts with the individual. So
Yeah.
to lead and to have these teams, to be super effective in whatever area of life you're leading, it starts with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you went right to also, we can build some of these skills and learn a framework and so forth at work, and inevitably it does seep into we take it home, and hopefully so, right? And how we are at home is coming into the workplace more, which is good. Like we
Mm-hmm.
we have to stop compartmentalizing ourselves, and I think we're getting better at that, and I think because we're getting invitations to be more authentic and to meet people in that space. And so I just think there's a lot of power there. And with the self, um, the one thing that came to my mind was when we think about ourselves and how we show up and all these things, it's really our patterns, and then our skills, and then our acumen. And acumen is really like the how the experiences that I've had builds some of my expertise,
Mm.
right? And so that's really what we shine a light on when we're working with individuals and teams is recognizing these are my skills, these are my patterns. Sometimes they work really well together, and sometimes I need to pause. And what's going on in front of me doesn't need that part right now, doesn't need that analytical thinking right now. And we the ability to kind of shift and move with what's in front of us can only happen when we slow down and understand what's in front of us. So I think that's a big part of that. With self-awareness does come others' awareness. So inevitably, we're going to have those light bulb moments when we're doing the work ourselves, which is really encouraging because it's like there's so many chapters to the book, right? But in this kind of work where it's like the science and the spirituality allows it to get deeper into our bones and into how we think, and that can alter then the patterns that sometimes are so ingrained um, because of all of how we're parented, what we experience as we're children, and we carry that with us. So that's what comes to mind for me.
Yeah, that's a big, I mean, a lot of us are, I will say, I mean, I'll take, because I'm human and we all do this, but like a
Yeah.
lot of times we are operating from a place of wounding.
Yeah.
And once we're aware of that, and say like, ooh, that wasn't cool
Yeah.
how I just reacted. What's going on in here?
Yeah.
Instead of the constant blaming
Yeah.
of the others when it's like, come
Yeah.
bring it home,
Yep.
bring it home.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that. And there's a lot of forgiveness for the self and patience too. So when we're learning
Mm-hmm.
new things and we're aware of new things, we still trip up. And it's like, oops, and allowing yourself to say oops and then re-engage in another way. It's clunky at first and it's not comfortable. But when the workplace can be a safe place, even to mess up, to try new things, it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's pause there because I feel like we could keep going on this for
Yeah.
a very long time.
Yeah.
So we'll just take a quick break. And before we do that, do you want to let listeners know how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, awesome. So we do have a new website, adwleadership.com. That's a great way. Also, honestly, Aubrey, at a deeper way, I'd be happy to just receive emails and see what's on your plate. What are the challenges that you're faced with today, and how can we help? We'd love to do that. So thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Aubrey. And we will be right back. And welcome back. I am Tonia, your host of the Alchemy and Me show, and I am here with Aubrey Johansson, CEO of A Deeper Way, ADW Leadership. And we've been really just scratching the surface here on the alchemy of leadership and what that looks like, and kind of pulling in some parts of the what has been, and maybe moving into more of the opportunity for what's yet to come. And so as we kind of continue to explore this, Aubrey, I want to ask you kind of about the leadership component in organizations. So why is this shift, this change, this alchemy of leadership? Why does it matter? And why, like, what's coming up for you through your organization, and how you're, this is a lot of questions, I apologize. So you can just start talking, but essentially I'm curious, like how, when you put A Deeper Way and the support within the organizations that you work with, what are you seeing, and how is that affecting or shaping and shifting organizations and individuals?
Yeah, awesome. A few things come to mind. First, leadership within organizations is really kind of vast, and there's so many people that can fit into that. And what came up the other day within a working session was, who are the leaders? Who are the and why do they get that hat? And obviously, titles put us there, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's also so important to be building the next leaders within. And when organizations do that effectively, one, they save a lot of money, but also of headaches and relearning things. There's so much experiential learning that happens from the employee and then up. And so there's so much value in so many different industries of promoting from within, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all that to say, I loved this simple definition of what is a leader as we think about this organizationally and outside of organizations in the home. And what came up was this steward of cohesion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, you think about what cohesion is and what it's not. And sometimes it's easier to think about what it's not because we all know like what that feels like. But as a steward of cohesion, there are pockets of leaders all over an organization. And I think that's one of the things that our framework and all of the tools and the resources that we provide for organizations is it doesn't just impact the top leaders. It's most helpful when it starts with them because typically the shift
Mm-hmm.
needs to start with them and trickle down. But there's also a both ways, and
Mm-hmm.
the way that we show up and communicate with other people, trust and respect is a big thing, and that's usually the foundational spot of where we start, and that's inclusive of the whole organization, right?
Mm-hmm.
No matter what level you're at. Um, but those interactions impact your culture and how people show up and let their guard down. And what we know is when you let your guard down and when your people are given a space to let their guard down, they can think more clearly. They can be more creative. They can show up to your meetings and see even just the bullet points of agendas and know, okay, I can contribute to this and I have a voice and it matters. And exchanging resources is really important and exchanging perspectives is invaluable in that workplace setting, especially. And so that first comes up is like, who are the leaders within this organization? They're all over. They're all over. They're not just the executives that get to pull up to the table. And that's, I think, the power of adopting something like our framework and so forth that impacts everybody because it needs to. And that's how you turn a ship, right? Everybody has to start using new language, using the same language. And that breeds understanding and allows everybody to get on to the boat, so forth. But yeah, there are so many huge challenges facing organizations, which is why this is so important, right? The complexity that's landing in the labs, the change is a huge opportunity for
Mm-hmm.
folks to understand what happens during change. It's super uncomfortable. Anybody who tries to initiate something new within an organization or a team or a dyad um, understands the feeling of like, why is this so hard? Like, but change hits us at all the levels, and we no longer know what what we knew. We no longer
Mm-hmm.
know maybe for a moment what is going to be helpful. How do I contribute and so forth. One of the skills that we teach, these essential functions that we teach, all align with what our brains do during change, and that's one of the I was going to say many ways, but maybe not. But it's one of the ways that all humans are the same, is that when faced with change, our brains do follow a sequence. Um, and when we can know that, believe that, and understand that, we can then start to notice where and who is jumping ship, right? Or falling off, or all of a sudden completely lost. But change is a big trigger for when cohesion completely breaks down and we're all of a sudden facing in different directions. So I think that's impacting organizations all over. Again, it doesn't matter who you're serving, who's impacted by your organization, the products that you're selling, the process of how you bring your people through change and what you're paying attention to really matters. Inclusive and equitable leadership is the other thing that I think organizations are really struggling with. Is we want to be inclusive and equitable, and putting people around us who think like us, and so forth feels easier in the moment. It's like, oh, we like have this synergy. We have this like magnetic pull, and that's awesome. But if you only run with people who are most similar to you, you are missing you're missing a big piece of the pie. You're missing so many opportunities because many times, again, whatever your organization is doing, it's likely serving it's serving or providing, and you have to know the diverse audience that you're serving. And if you only look and show up and think all the same way, you're inevitably shrinking yourselves, right? And the you're shrinking your audience. That's mainly what I was going for.
Well, yeah, and it's interesting because it made me think of how you're describing this. Is it's the, and this is where it's like awareness or not. So that, how about that collective experience of COVID? Everybody went through it. It was a collective experience. And so it was something external that clearly affected, saying it's like the business ecosystem, which obviously affected every single human. And it's interesting, and I'd be curious if you've noticed this from, some businesses are really stepping up and noticing how COVID, or I mean, it could be something too, like that's maybe more community centered. So if something big happens in a community, you can rally around like what the individuals and what teams need. And it's interesting because I've had an experience where it seems like for individuals and teams, like some companies, like I said, they're stepping up to the plate. They're seeing this as an opportunity to shift and to support humanity and manage this complexity and manage all this change, and to see like, oh yeah, maybe we do need to think of this a different way of doing things, because life as we know it is changing always. And then when we have these like quantum shifts in how we exist, I find it fascinating that there are still a lot of businesses out there that continue to lead from this like more of a fear-based approach, where it's like not thinking about humanity, not thinking about inclusivity, not thinking of, the whole person, the whole team, the whole, I don't know, I think of it as like the health of the business, really. And I I'm going to just say, like, I think that those days are numbered. I think those
Mhm.
businesses need to make a decision, to need to make a choice on how they want to move forward, to be aware of, okay, why do we have an attrition? Like, why are people leaving? It's not, maybe it's not about the people. Maybe it's about, again, that business ecosystem and how we are treating our people.
Yeah.
The most important part of the organization, no matter what, if you're creating a product or a service, people are what keep the doors open.
Yeah. Yeah. And when they're not treated well or they don't feel like they have their feet on the ground when they walk in the door, they're going to want to find something else. Um,
Yes.
so that I speaking to like this thing that happened, this COVID that impacted us all, some in the same ways and some in really different ways. But one of the kind of the impacts is it kind of jarred loose this need for connection, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that look like? Does it have to be in person though? Can we still gain connection through the screen? And but also I think it just lit that flame of the recognition that yes, connection is a human need. And um, and it might look different. It does. It looks different for so many of us, um, but you still need to receive and give it, right? And so providing a space, and I think that's what organizations are really trying to figure out. Also, when you're coming out of this really heavy top-down hierarchical structure, there's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of shame that can bubble up, and like a lot of I haven't listened to all of your radio shows, Tonia, so I'm gonna drop a swear, but so
Of
many
course.
people have those like oh shit moments where they're like, oh, I was a part of the problem, and I thought I was doing good things. I thought I was doing what was needed, what was expected. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
one though, because what's expected, we sometimes just like fall into line and like, yeah, I can do that. But it's counter to who we are internally. And when we finally wake up and realize, like, holy smokes, I've been running and maybe chasing so hard. We see that a lot with our corporate clients too, of like this like awakening, like what have I been putting my energy into? And I need to change paths. Like um this doesn't sit well with me internally. And people need to listen to that. In building a business, a lot of it is like discover your why and know your why, and mission and vision and values and these things. And if you walk into an organization and you're feeling your insides cringe, there's a reason. And it's not something to just get over, and
Mm-hmm.
it's something to listen to and to find somebody that you can talk to about it, because you got to get it out and flush it and find, is this a problem? What about the culture here is counter to my being? And listen to it and go in that other direction if you need to. And I think people have a really hard time with that because of expectations or needs that, but if I chase this, I know what I'll gain from it, maybe probably monetary. I know what I'll get and I need that. There are other ways to get it. There are other ways. And splitting yourself um, comes at a really big cost. And I think people are understanding that and coming to that um, realization, maybe a little bit faster even now.
That one, like you said, I don't know if I've heard you say that before. The splitting yourself. That one, that one I felt deep. And I bet that there are others listening that do, because that is that's a big part of the culture of, I'm sorry, I'm going to, the kind of the patriarch of how it is to, be successful in the
Yeah.
corporate space. And I say, hell no, like, let's
Yeah.
be done with that,
Yeah.
because I'm not interested personally in splitting who I am anymore.
Yeah.
Um, we've all done it,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel good. And then trying to pick up the pieces of the who we are. And because
Yeah.
what happens, as you know, is like when you show up and perhaps your personal, even if it's not super clear, like, like what matters, what you value, your personal mission, your personal vision. If you walk into a company, whether it's your first day or you've been there for 40 years, if your mission and
Yes.
your vision personally do not align with that company, you are screaming inside.
Yeah.
And you can tamp that down, but the more and more you become aware of that dissonance,
Mhm.
the harder it is to exist in that
Yeah.
space. And
Yeah.
it's just, I can say, like, now on the other side, um, even though it's hard, because I feel like I and many others have done that
Yeah.
for so long, and then trying to figure out, like, well, wait, what do I actually
It's the other way.
care about?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
let's pause there
Mhm.
for a moment and take one more break. And then I'd like to continue on kind of this thread a little bit, because I think, talking some about,
Yeah.
maybe about the shadow. I know you started talking about that in the beginning. I think that's a really important piece um, to explore a little deeper. So we'll be right back. Welcome back. I am Tonia here with Aubrey, and we're going to continue to talk about kind of where we left off before the commercial break. Just this idea of the shadow and how it lives within the workplace, and really how it affects our how we exist, and how it affects the workplace. So Aubrey, let's go there. So let's talk about this shadow. First of all, maybe, like, what is this, and
Yeah.
how can it, yeah, where did it come from?
Hmm. Good. When I think about and even your experience of leading a meeting with the audience that you had in the moment in the workplace setting that you were at. Um, Whenever we kind of gather together, I think especially in organizations, because there are times where it was done really poorly. Those shadows in the room, I feel like are because we kind of connected it to, or when I brought it up, it was kind of connected to that healing. Oh, like
Mm-hmm.
there often is healing that needs to happen in the workplace because we build strong patterns of protection, right? And a lot of times, the reason that we do that, or just fall in line, or whatever, whatever that looks and feels like, um, is because something was telling us we weren't allowed. A part of ourself wasn't allowed to be. And when that happens over time within a team, there are new kind of hard patterns, or visually we call them ski ruts of just like, oh yep, I know what to do here. I just set my skis right into this spot and I fall in line. I don't speak up. Whatever those kind of behaviors start to come out as. And I think I was going to say higher functioning teams, but the idea I was thinking of is really teams who are carrying complex challenges and so forth, and need to maybe work at a fast pace, and they need to get on the same page together and really produce or run fast together. Um, in those scenarios, those the longer we ignore the shadows in the room and don't address a change that no, this is not that
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but our whole being needs to feel that. We can typically, we're told that, and that just hits our intellectual, and that's easy, and that's kind of a simple way, but it's really hard to convince your body and your emotional parts and that spirit of why you're doing what you're doing, and do I belong here. That's a felt sense.
Mm-hmm.
And with equity and inclusion and building diverse teams, that is about belonging, right? And the shadows of I'm not safe here, I don't belong here, or I don't have a voice here. Those leaders can have a huge impact in shrinking those shadows and letting them out the door. But it is an individual journey. And I think that's the complexity that leaders are kind of faced with today, is that there are traumas in the workplace. There
Mm-hmm.
are um, there are these like PTSD moments where we're like experiencing something here and now that is safe, but our body's not there yet. And so just telling somebody this is a safe place isn't enough. It really
Mm-hmm.
isn't enough. And we need to find other ways at those other levels of knowing that really speak to that energy level and speak to that spiritual level of I do belong here. I do have a voice here. And if I mess up, it's okay. Like there's a lot of risk. And again, how we were taught to handle failure, how we were taught to talk about emotions, how we were taught to like,
What?
sometimes we weren't.
What are emotions?
And so when we lead, and there was a time where we'd kind of lead there hard and fast, and that was really hard for people because you're learning a whole new. It's like we walked into the room and expected everybody to know French. Like that was the
Mm-hmm.
kind of like to learn a different language. Um, so it's okay to start like small, and
Mm-hmm.
kind of this I like infiltrated into all of the parts and all of the systems that are online. And the more systems you can get online within your work, like that is satisfying. That's something you want to come back to. And that's the culture that you're going to build, that people are going to want more seats at the table. You're going to want to show up, and um, that's how your organization builds their legacy, right?
Mm-hmm. That
Is
trust and that loyalty that can come from
yeah,
just like honoring the individuality of each human.
right.
It's a novel concept, yet we don't quite know. I don't quite know how to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, humanity is so messy. We find
mhm.
it a lot, especially in any industry that is people serving people, because there's all of these dynamics. In a workshop one time, it was like, what is your job? If you could, like, what's your role? And he said, I help people in order to help people to help people. It was like this chain of like, so that these people are helped. Like, but it's like, yeah, leaders, that chain of impact is a lot. And so if you're just looking at impacting only the people around the table, you're really shrinking what your purpose is there, because it's so many more, and how to do that. That's one of the things that we have really got, like complexity in organizations is huge, right? But it can be distilled. And complexity distilled looks like clarity and simplicity. It's like, okay, make it clear, break it down, use data, use data. That actually makes things simple because you can build a plan that is individualized and that speaks to that person. And then it's cohesion. It's like we're all moving. We're all actually running this 3-legged or 12-legged race together. And so many people have never felt that before. They've never experienced, like, holy smokes, we're running faster, we're running farther, and we're not getting tired yet. Like, because we are in this flow state. We are in this, like, this is what I'm meant to do. And that's the biggest thing, is we want to help people get there, because it's likely like not behind 15 doors. It's like behind that curtain blocking the beautiful sun behind your window, across, like over your shoulder. Like it's right there.
It's there. It's there. And it's accessible to everyone. And yeah, so I would just to kind of wrap it up, because I know no surprise, we're running out of time. I just want to, like, it's an opportunity for each of us to choose that we want more, and then to realize that we play a role, whether we're leading or being led, and to really looking inside to the possibilities that are there. So I just want to thank Aubrey. I want to thank you again for being here. And do you want to share one more time how people can get a hold of you, your website and email?
Yep. adw-leadership.com is where we're at. And Aubrey, AUBREE, at deeperway.com. We'll get
Beautiful. Yeah. Thanks, Aubrey. And if anybody wants to get in contact with me, have any questions about what I am up to, check out my website at www.euphora.co. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to The Alchemy of Me, where we navigate the anatomy of humanity through the lens of science and spirituality. For more mind-body energy medicine concepts, tools, and practices to nourish the seeds, the light, the fire, that gold of intelligence that is you, tune in every first and third Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on transformationtalkradio.com. For more information about me and my work, please visit toniajohnson.com. That's toniajohnson.com.